Hello writing pals and my reading pals. Grab yourself a blanket and light yourself a candle and let's talk about the ever so chilling Queen of Thessins, Layla herself, in her book, The Savior's Sister. So, two things I want to get out of the way right off the bat. First up is that this book is intended for readers of a more mature audience and contains themes such as abuse, sexual situations, and language. So if those things are not your cup of tea, I would not recommend this book to you. I'm not necessarily going to talk about them in my review, so if you want to watch my whole video and support me, hey, feel free to do so. But if those are things that you are definitely uncomfortable with, I do not recommend that you read The Savior's Sister, even though it is a wonderful read. And the second thing is that I was given an advanced reader's copy of this book. So, you know, I read it in advance for review. Yeah. But yes, even though I was given this book for free and for review, all thoughts in this video are of my own. The Savior's Sister is a companion novel to Jenna Moreci's second book, but first in the Savior series, The Savior's Champion. Except this time we follow Layla as she is trying to thwart her father's plans to assassinate her. Like I said, Layla is trying to escape an assassination attempt again by her father, only this time it's under the guise of marriage. So, in Thessins, the savior of the land is usually married off to the winner of the Sovereign's Tournament, who would then become the Savior's champion. Except, you know, the guys in this edition of the Sovereign's Tournament aren't all that great. You know, you've got some great guys like Milo and Tobias and, you know, Ienzo, I think I remember being a good guy. But you also have some assassins that Brontes has thrown into the ring. And so Layla disguises herself and is going to do her darn bestest to find out who they are and to kill them before they can kill her. Overall, the conflict in this book is very well written. It is engaging, it is always moving, it doesn't drag, and it's great. Honestly, the conflict in this book is actually real. I have read so many books recently where the conflict is boring, it's flat, it doesn't seem urgent, there's no urgency in it, the character's like, oh my gosh, this horrible thing's gonna happen, and I'm like, what horrible thing? You keep telling me something horrible's gonna happen, but I don't see anything horrible happening. I don't get the hype with the book. I don't see, you know, the problems. I don't see. I didn't like that book. It can stay right where it is. The conflict in The Savior's Sister is very real, it's very present, and it's always moving. That's one thing I really appreciate, is that it doesn't really seem to drag. There were a few points within the book where I kind of felt like things were repeating themselves a little bit, but then Jenna would throw something new into the mix, something big would happen, and my brain would be like, okay, alright, I'm okay with that. And honestly, I did say in my review, and I'll say it here, that if things happened any faster than they did, I would probably be saying the exact opposite, that I felt like the book was rushing itself a little bit. So I actually prefer things to be a little bit more drawn out. I'm able to hold on to a little bit more of a slow burn. I've got a decent attention span as an adult reader. My top 3 favorite characters in this book were Layla, Delphi, and Brontes. So let's delve into that. So I think Layla is an amazing character. I can really I feel for her with the struggle that she's going through. She has technically the power to stop everything and to make things right and to save herself and her people, but she can't. And I think that's the most infuriating thing. Not infuriating to read or that it was bad, but the thing that, oh, my heart hurt was that, oh, she has the ability if only she was given it, because Brontes has put her under his thumb, him and his council's thumb. And so she's got this power, she's got the right to do these things, but they've made it impossible for her to be able to do it. You know, the best line from the council members whenever she brings up, like, I'm the queen, is they're like, oh, but you spend so much energy blessing the land and removing the curse that we don't think is real. Aren't you tired? She's like, Yeah, I do. I spend 2 minutes every morning doing that. Oh, I'm so fatigued spending 2 minutes every day doing a very simple, easy task. Woe is me. You know, that's the kind of vibe I get. That, you know, it's kind of the feel that like, oh, you did one thing? Aren't you tired, honey? Don't you need a break, honey? That was hard, wasn't it? And it's kind of like, stop insulting me. I'm able to do more than just blink and breathe. I like how she goes about things. She is the kind of character that I really like because she recognizes that in order to save her kingdom and in order to save people and herself, she has to do things that she really doesn't want to. And I like that we kind of see that struggle at the start of the book where, you know, she's first struggling with realizing that, you know, she has to get her hands dirty and she has to do some pretty sad things in order to make things right. But I like that. It doesn't necessarily, I don't think, make her a morally gray character because she kind of understands that what she's doing is kind of wrong, but that that it has to be done. It's almost a necessary evil. She realizes that she has to do some things that make her very uncomfortable and that she would never do under any other circumstances. But she does it because she cares about people. So she doesn't do these things because she's evil and she wants to. And I keep saying these things because I don't necessarily want to say what she's doing because I don't know if that necessarily counts as a spoiler or not, but she's got to get her hands dirty. I'm sure that you can assume in a dark fantasy novel what it means to get your hands dirty. I appreciate the struggle that she goes through and that she isn't just doing these things and it's easy for her and it's simple, but she's actually struggling. And I like that. I like seeing a character struggle with the things that they have to do, because if it was super easy, if it's a problem that the main character can solve like that, or that it's really simple or it's really easy or they can forget about it, then there's no reason to be reading that book. But she struggled and it was hard and it was engaging to read and I really liked it. Delphi, I thought, was a very fun kind of sidekick, fun best friend character, and I really appreciate that in writing. I really like when books include more than just your villain, your main character, and the pretty face for the main character to gawk at. I really like when there are other characters that you can interact with, that you can learn with, that can help the main character grow. I like when the main character isn't just growing because some hot person helped them grow. I like seeing other relationships with other characters. I think it's wholesome. I think it's realistic. Realistically, we all at least have one friend, and Delphi definitely filled that role for me, and I loved reading about Delphi. Now on to Brontes, who might be my favorite character in the entire book. Let me be clear. I'm not saying I like Brontes because it's cool and on trend to like the bad guy or things like that, but he was a very well-written character. I loved reading any scene that had Brontes in it because we saw his motives, and as a villain, sometimes we don't always see their motives, or their motives are very cliche and a very cliche form of evil. Does that make sense? They're very much, I'm going to do evil things because I'm evil and I want to do them, but like, you know, he's corrupt. We see how he's corrupt. We see why he's corrupt. We see what he's doing. We understand the motives of why he's doing what he's doing. We see him be the bad guy. And that is something I really appreciate. So often we see bad guys in books and, you know, nowadays they're not really that bad. Like, the worst we see them do is maybe kick a puppy. And it's like, really? You're the main bad guy? You're the evil overlord who we've heard do all of these wicked evil deeds, but like the worst we've actually ever seen you do on the page is like, you said something minorly hurtful towards me? You're the bad guy? No, like, we actually see Brontes being a bad guy, which is something that I so crave that some books just don't do. Some books just don't do it. They just don't do it for me. I want to see the bad guy be the bad guy, and Jenna definitely fulfilled that. Next up, we're going to talk about some characters I didn't necessarily like. There were a handful of kind of background characters, and you know, it's hard to say that the characters you didn't like were background characters because they're only there for the background. They're not really supposed to be doing a lot, but I felt like some of the background characters in this book were given the feeling that they were supposed to be more important than they actually felt. So some of the attendants kind of felt like they were more important than they actually were, or I'm gonna get probably murdered for this, Pippa. I love Pippa. I thought Pippa was a cute, adorable character. She's a good bargaining chip over a specific character in the book, so her role in the book is very important. I just kind of more so felt like it was said that it was important maybe once, and then you kind of forget about it, so I would have liked for that to be brought up a little bit more than it was. But other than that, there weren't really any characters that I didn't like. Oh, other characters I liked. I liked reading them in The Savior's Champion, the assassins. I think his name is Kaleo? He's the unknown assassin, so Layla's figuring out who the assassins are, and they're like, oh, this guy, like, oh, we've never heard of him. Oh, he must not be that big of a deal then, you know, says Layla, and it's like, no, like, we haven't heard of him. We don't know what he's capable of. And his character art is really well done. He just looks like a bad guy. And again, with the bad guys in Jenna's writing, he acts like a bad guy. You aren't just told, oh, he's a bad guy, but the worst he's ever done is kick a puppy. It's like, no, he's a bad guy. And we see him doing bad things, and it was just so wonderful. Jenna's villains are so good. Jenna, please, can you do like a Skillshare class on writing villains? I love writing villains. I think it's so interesting, you know, the complexity of them, and I feel like you do a really good job. So like, please. Pretty pleased. I know she has some videos up on her YouTube about writing some villains, which I'm probably gonna take a gander at, but yeah, her villains were great. I already stated this earlier, but some of the plot elements that I really liked was the conflict. The fact that the conflict felt ever-moving and was very interesting and engaging was very good. So she's trying to figure out who her assassins are, to assassinate her assassins, and to take her power back. But then within all of those things, a wrench is thrown into her plan when she falls in love with Tobias. And it was just great to see Layla falling in love with Tobias, because, you know, in The Savior's Champion, obviously we see Tobias fall in love with Layla. And it was so wonderful to see the other side of that. Like, I loved it. If anything in this book that I really loved, I loved seeing the other side of the coin. I loved, you know, reading from Tobias's point of view and watching him struggle through this tournament that he didn't necessarily even want to be in. And then I loved watching Layla watch this tournament that she didn't want to have happen. So you've got these two people who can't stand the tournament, who are involved in it because they have to be. They have basically no other choice. And they fall in love, and I'm a sucker for people falling in love. I love falling in love. I'm in love. I love being in love. Love is wonderful. It's great. And so I really enjoyed that. I really enjoyed seeing her slowly lose focus over this, because she's like, wow, like, these are actual feelings, and you know, that does happen. You know, like, some people see it as cliche, but it was done in such a wonderful way of watching Layla slowly fall in love and seeing how it affected her and being like, oh, like, I'm supposed to be doing these things, but I'm also kind of caught up because there are butterflies in my stomach. And I thought it was very well written how her struggle was with falling in love, but also realizing that she had to fight for her life, and how she could do both. It was great. I really liked it. Well done. There was one point in the book overall that did not exactly tickle my fancy, and this, I will be clear, does not mean that the book is bad or that it is a problem. Fun fact, this is not a problem. It is just a reader's preference. Does not make this book bad. Does not make this thing bad. Does not make Jenna a bad writer. It is just a reader's preference of mine that I didn't feel was met in the book, and that is talking about some of the other senses aside from sight. So, I maybe just missed some of it, and it's very possible that I missed it or that my brain just glossed over it, but I felt like some of the other senses weren't really written about. I didn't really feel a lot of the atmosphere. I didn't feel, you know, the temperature, how things felt under Layla's hands, or the smells or the tastes or some other things that she was hearing. You know, we got wonderful visual descriptions throughout the book, and those were very well done. I would have just preferred myself as a reader. Again, this is a preference. It is not something that has to be done. Let me make that clear, is that I probably would have preferred a little bit more variety in my descriptions. And that's that for things I didn't necessarily like in the book, and it is why this book is I rated it 4 stars instead of 5 stars, is because I kind of felt like I was in a white room sometimes and didn't always get some of the great descriptions. The writing was wonderful, I could have used a little bit more. Friendships, I think I also touched on. I loved the friendships in this book. I loved reading Layla's interactions with Delphi and Koisma and Pippa. I think all of those interactions were very well done. I think they were written very realistically. I love seeing friendship in books. Like I said earlier, I don't think friendships are, at least in the books that I've been reading recently, are really well done, or they're kind of forced, like, hey, we're buddies, we're good pals, we're friends, can't you tell that we're friends? Did you know that we're friends? We're friends, we're BFFs. It feels kind of fake and it feels kind of forced, but these relationships, in my opinion, felt very natural and they were very wonderful to read. So you can order The Savior's Sister just about anywhere that you can actually buy books, and I highly recommend that you do so. I think The Savior's Sister was a wonderful read. It's going to be a wonderful fall read. I definitely think dark fantasies or darker normal fantasies, or fantasy in general, are amazing fall reads because, you know, you're kind of inside because it's a little chilly. You've got a nice cup of cocoa, tea, or cider. You're on the couch or the bed or somewhere cozy and you're reading, and it's a cozy read. The Savior's Sister is a very cozy read, and I very much enjoyed reading every page of it. And so if you do decide to pre-order the book before it is released in late September, I believe it is September 29th, you can enter yourself into Jenna Moreci's pre-sale book giveaway, where you have the chance to win some wonderful bookish goodies from fellow authors and author-tubers here on the platform and just in general. And a lot of the goodies have been really cool, and I've kind of wanted to get my hands on some. And you can also get the first 5 chapters of the book for free. So on her website there are the first 3 chapters of the book that you can read, but if you pre-order it you get those extra 2 chapters, and I highly recommend them. They are wonderful. I really enjoyed reading this book. I hope that you've enjoyed listening to me talk about this book. Like I said, I think The Savior's Sister was a wonderful book. It is a wonderful companion novel, a wonderful book 2 in the Savior series, and I cannot wait until TSA comes out. Have no clue when it will, but I'm so excited to see the story continue. You know, like at the end of every episode of Pokemon, and the story unfolds again in the next episode of Pokemon, and then insert Poke-Rap, which would probably give me a copyright struck. If you had a fun time listening to me today, I encourage you to hit that like button and press subscribe and ring the bell so you get notified every time I upload a video. I try to upload videos twice a week with fun bookish and writing related content. You can also feel free to share my videos with your friends. I want to create a fun, loving, bookish community all centered around, you know, books and writing and things of that nature here on my channel. And you can also follow me on all of my socials if you want a little bit more Xanna in your week and a little bit more Maestro. I am on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, all at XannasBooks. And I hope you have had a wonderful time with me here today, and I will see you next time.